Hey guys, it's Keeley, and today I'm going to be doing my June reading wrap-up, and I actually had a really good month for reading this month because, you know, in the past few months this year I've only read a few books, but this month I read, I believe it's 8 books, and most of them were 5 stars. Really good reading month, and if you can't tell, I'm out of my reading slump, which is amazing, and I have one author to thank for that, and we'll get to that soon because I read 4 or 5 of her books. We'll see, but let's get on into the wrap-up. The first book I finished this month was The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. This is book 1 in the Kane Chronicles, and if you haven't heard, Rick Riordan loves to write about mythology. What? I know, shocker. And this one is specifically about Egyptian mythology, which is different from his normal, like, Greek mythology that he writes. And I had no idea anything about about Egyptian mythology, so I was going into this one pretty much blind. And it follows these 2 siblings, Sadie and Carter, and Carter lives with his dad and Sadie lives with their grandparents in London. And then one day something happens on the rare visit where they're all together, and so Sadie and Carter have to work to try to save their father and the world. You know how it is with, like, bad guys and stuff. It was really interesting. It's definitely not my favorite Riordan book, and I do prefer Greek mythology to Egyptian mythology, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I was in a reading slump when I was reading this, so I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if I wasn't in that slump, but I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. And now we are starting the author who got me out of my reading slump, and that is Sarah Dessen. And I have always loved Sarah Dessen, but this month, I decided to read some of the books that I hadn't read from her, and the first one I started with was The Moon and More by Sarah Dessen. This one follows a girl named Emmeline, and she lives in this little beach town called Colby, which I realized when I was reading all of these books that all of these books, like, there's Easter eggs in all of them. Like, you either see a character that you read about, like in one of the books the main character is a side character, or you see her at a glance, and they all kind of, a lot of them visit this town, which was really cool. But anyway, it follows Emmeline, who lives in Colby, and she kind of has this perfect life. She works in her family business, she has this really great boyfriend, and then one day, you know, she starts wanting a little bit more and things start going crazy. And, you know, this one wasn't my favorite Sarah Dessen book, but I still loved it nonetheless. In all of her books, there is like a little bit of a romance aspect, but they're always slow burning romances. None of them are like love at first sight type of thing. So if you're a slow burning romance person, you will love it. And a lot of times they don't get together until like the last 10 pages or something. But in this one, the guy that she was with for most of the book, I did not like him at all. I didn't really like her family, and so that kind of threw me off a little bit, but I still enjoyed it. Like I said, not my favorite. I think I'm planning on doing like a ranked video soon of all of Sarah Dessen's books, but this one I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next Sarah Dessen book I read was Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen, and this one follows this girl named Auden who is an insomniac. Growing up, she would refuse to go to sleep because her parents would always fight while she was sleeping, and so she thought if she stayed awake, then they wouldn't fight. So she became an insomniac, and she can't sleep. And so when she moves to her dad's town in Colby, like the same place as the last book, she meets this other guy, Eli, who is also an insomniac. And so a lot of their adventures take place in the middle of the night, and it's so much fun. I really, really loved this one, and I loved her stepmom so much. I loved, like, the friends that she makes, because she realizes, like, at first she sees these girls and she's like, no thank you, and then she becomes friends with them, and it's really great. And I love Eli. I love the main character Auden. I really did like this book, and it has a lot to do with like riding bikes and like doing like bike competitions and stuff like that. And like, if I haven't mentioned, Sarah Dessen's books always have like a hard-hitting topic, and this one specifically talks about losing a friend and like death and stuff like that, but still the slow burning romance gets to me every time. I love this one, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This next book is my favorite Sarah Dessen book. I read it probably like 6 years ago. I loved it then, and I love it now, and it'll probably always be my favorite, but that is The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dessen, and it follows this girl named Macy who seems to have this perfect life, and her mom always expects her to be perfect, stay out of trouble, get good grades, have this job at the library, and just look good. And one day she wants to go outside of her comfort zone and she decides to get a job with this crazy catering company that seems like they never have it together. It's always confusion and chaos, and she meets this boy named Wes, and let me tell you guys, Wes is one of my favorite male characters I've ever met. He is amazing, and he's one of those people that, like, he came from so little and then amounted to a lot, and he's just such a genuine character, and I really love him. I really love Macy, and this is just such a good book, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This next book is Just Listen by Sarah Dessen, and this is definitely the darkest out of all of her books that I've read. There's a trigger warning for sexual abuse and for eating disorders, so if that is something that triggers you, just be warned by that. But I love this one so much. This follows a girl named Annabelle who her and her sisters grew up modeling their whole lives, and something happens. When the book opens, you realize that Annabelle has lost all of her friends. You don't know how. You know that there's this giant secret going around, and so she's all alone at school, and she quickly becomes friends with another loner at school that everyone kind of stays away from, and so their friendship and relationship develops. And then as the book goes on, you start getting an idea of this secret that she's been keeping, and it's just so good, so dark, and so emotional, and I just loved it so much. I loved Annabelle, I loved her sisters and her family. It was great, and I also gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. And the last Sarah Dessen book that I read this month was Once and For All by Sarah Dessen. This is her newest release, and this one was really cute. This follows a girl named Luna who grew up watching her mom plan weddings, and so she is in the wedding business too, and she helps her mom plan these weddings. And then one day they start planning this wedding for this girl, and her little brother is just such a nuisance, and he just comes in and acts like he's all cool and everything, and something starts developing, and it's really cute, and once again, like, deeper meaning and stuff. Now this one, it does have a really hard topic too. I'm not gonna say, I don't think it's a trigger, so I don't need to say it, but it's also very relevant in today's society, and I just really loved this one a lot, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is a reread for me, and I loved it just as much, and I don't care what people say about it. I don't care how much hate it gets. I will always love it, and that is Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I haven't read this book since 2008, so it has been 9 years since I read it, and I have just been wanting to, for the past year or so, reread the series so bad, because it is the series that got me into reading, and I just absolutely love it so much. And I know it's not a 5-star book, but for nostalgia's sake and how much it, like, makes me happy, I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars, even though I know it's not, but I just, like, can't give it anything lower, and I just love it so much. It was different rereading it 9 years later, and there were some parts where I was like, okay, that could have been executed better, but it's really cool, like, getting to reread the series and seeing how Stephenie's writing progressed, and I just really love it, and I'm so excited to continue with the series because it will always have a special place in my heart. This next book I read was Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han. This is the 3rd book in the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy, and I finally got to this one, and I love it so much. Guys, I cannot express how much I love Peter Kavinsky. Like, it is crazy. My love for him is just enormous. I love him so much, and I really did enjoy this book. There was a point, like, towards the end where I was just like, if this is how it ends, I am going to be very upset. But it all fixed out, and it all worked out the way I wanted it to, and I'm so excited. And I just have to say that Peter K is the sweetest boy in the history of the world, and I love him so much. Oh, I don't think I mentioned, but I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read in the month of June, I read in 2 days, and that is New Moon by Stephenie Meyer. This is the 2nd book in the Twilight saga, and weirdly enough, when I first read this series, I did not like this book at all. I thought it was so boring, but now I like it better than the first one. Like, it's just crazy how much Stephenie's writing progressed between Twilight and New Moon, and I think that's why I enjoyed this one better, was because the writing was so much better, even though I am really salty that, like, Edward's barely in it, because, you know, he has to leave or whatever. So mad at him, because Edward, Team Edward all the way, guys, and I'm just so excited to continue with the series because it is my baby. And of course, gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I can't give it anything less than that. I'm sorry. Ooh. Oh no. Oh. So these are all the books that I read in the month of June. I'm so glad I'm out of my reading slump and had such a great reading month. I hope you had a great reading month as well. Thank you so much for watching. As always, my social media links will be down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!